Well, good morning, everyone, from behind my steering wheel. So it's Monday, March 12th, I believe. On my way to work. So we had church yesterday, and some, once again, a very great message. That was given yesterday. It's not yet up on YouTube. It might be on the church's website, but it's not on their YouTube channel yet. I'll give you guys a heads up once it is. But again, the question that they addressed today is these tough questions are, you kind of back up, are questions that the world, the unchurched, the people who refuse to go to church, some of the things that keep people from going to church, or what the other questions they're addressing. And the one yesterday was about why is the church full of hypocrites, or why would I want to go to church that's filled with hypocrites. So he addressed that yesterday. I thought, again, done a fabulous job of addressing that. But I'm not going to go into that today. One, because I can't do it justice, just like the last one. I probably shouldn't have rambled on about last week's message. But anyway, what I would like to talk about today is priorities, dad versus hobbies, maybe. Not exactly sure what I'll title this one, but the idea is, as a father, as a husband, balancing that and hobbies, whatever it happens to be. Whether it's, being a sports fan, building things, whatever your hobby might be, video games. But I think that to address that, I have to back up a little bit and talk about priorities. And the devotional that I've been going through right now is about being a faithful father, and I think it does a good job of kind of bringing out the questions. But this particular topic is something I was thinking about outside of that devotional, but it does keep me mindful of my son and me being a thoughtful or being a faithful father. So first of all, what should my priorities be would be the first question when it comes to my life and things that I do. I'll first say that what my priorities should be are oftentimes, or too many times, or most of the time, is not what I put into practice, and that was really brought to light yesterday by the message that they gave yesterday about being transparent. And that's kind of what I want to do now is so my priorities should be, or what I want my priorities to be, is God first, my wife second, my son third, work fourth, and then everything else, and then myself fifth, and then everything else and everyone else after that. Do I do a good job at doing that? No. In fact, I do a really poor job of doing that, especially keeping God first is oftentimes a struggle for me. And then too many times, if I let my guard down, I'll put me at the top. I think people can take two different extremes on this. They can go with putting me at the top, me first. It's all about me. What I want and what I want to do comes first. That's the one extreme. And the other extreme is, to not have have me in there at all. So I know it sounds like it's a hard balance, and and as Christians, we oftentimes try to go to that latter extreme, or we strive to, because we think that me shouldn't be involved at all. But if we don't, I mean, first of all, there's nowhere in the Bible that says that we can't have fun. In fact, I don't have the passages at the top of my head, but there are passages in there that encourage us to have fun. So, that being said, when it comes to our hobbies or comes to our interests, obviously, if we can have interests that also include our family, great, wonderful. That doesn't always happen, though. My interests and things I enjoy aren't always the same things that my wife enjoys. So, you can't always do those things together. Now, does that mean that the things that I do with my family I don't enjoy? No. I'm not saying that, but we have hobbies, we have things we like to do that don't always include our family. Is there anything wrong with that? No, I don't believe that there is anything wrong with having hobbies. But specifically in this topic of being a good father versus hobbies, I think it can be done. First of all, when you have, like me, I have a 3-year-old, and my 3-year-old, he goes to bed at 8 o'clock at night. I'm not going to bed at 8 o'clock at night. I mean, unless I'd have to be at work really early, I'm just not that kind of person. I can't go to bed that early. A few times I have tried to force myself to go to bed. I toss and turn for 2 hours, before going to sleep. So, I'm not gonna come home from work and go straight to bed. So I always have time then to do things. Now, that also is the time that my wife and I can do things together. So you got to balance that. But if you have a life that doesn't have anything in it that lets you just relax, lets you unwind, do things that are not, this has nothing, may have no other value than just entertainment or pleasure for you. You can't remove those completely from your life. But at the same time, if you find that your hobbies or your interests are either taking up all the time that you could or should be spending with your family, or in the case of this topic, your child, then and you're not spending any time with your child doing things with them, then obviously it becomes in the way. I find that, the weekends, especially right now, is the only real time I get to spend with my son and my wife. So I try to do things with them, or try to do things that they enjoy, or whatever happens to be. I myself, personally, I have to stay on guard because, and this really came to light. I read a book called Gods at War, and by Kyle Idleman. I'll try to put a link to that book in the notes below. But amazing book, and it brought to light what things in our lives become idols to us. And oftentimes when we think about idols, we think of some statue that people bow down to and worship. But it an idol doesn't have to be a physical item. And very much so, most of our idols, especially here in America, are not physical items. They are they're inanimate. They're things that we can't touch, but they become more important to us, and we've placed them in a place above or in place of God. And that whole series, that whole book brought to light that my thing that I have to battle against all the time is entertainment. I love to be entertained. I have a hard time when there's not something stimulating going on around me. And I have to guard against that. In the name of transparency, there was a point in my life where everything around me had to be entertaining, or else it would just drive me crazy. It would get to the point. It started out small. I'd play a game, whether it be on my phone or on my computer, and that would be enough. And then I'd go from that to, okay, I'm playing my game, but I need to add something else to it. So I'd have the TV on. and have something playing there. So now I have a video game going, TV playing, and then that wasn't enough. So I had to have, at one point I had multiple video games. So I had a computer that had more than one screen hooked up to it. So I had, one game going on one computer screen and another game going on another computer screen, and then something else going on the TV. And eventually that became not enough either. I mean, it works, the whole idea of entertainment and that stimulation, it honestly works a lot like a drug. You start with a little bit and it's enough, and then after a while that's not enough, so you have to add to it. I mean, it got to the point that I'd be watching one thing on TV, I'd be playing two different things on my computer, have my iPad or my iPhone out playing something else on there. Especially if one or two of those games had time you had to wait. So sometimes in RPGs you'll be doing something, you have to wait for something to happen. So while something's happening, I jump over here and do something over here, and then while I wait for that thing and the first thing to catch up, then I go pull out a third thing. So it was bad. It completely consumed my life, and led to a lot of bad things in my life, which we may get to in a future episode. But I know that that's my weakness. That particular idol can easily have a hold in my life, so I have to be very careful how I allow those things in my life. So again, even to this day, I love entertainment, and it is still to this day hard for me to just sit down and just watch a movie or watch something on TV. I need to be watching something on TV and doing something else. And unless whatever I'm sitting and doing with my family is very engaging, I struggle with that. And I know that, and obviously that is a big part of it. If I know that, I can take the proper precautions to battle against that. So it would be very easy for me to take my interests and my pleasures and not leave any time for my son, and do that. I mean, time is something you don't get back, and I don't want my son to grow up thinking that his dad never spent any time, never made time to spend with him. So I try to balance that. With that being said, I do have hobbies. And unfortunately, there's probably, again, leading back to the thing I was just speaking about, there are so many things in my life that I find interest in. When it comes to quote-unquote hobbies, I have had so many hobbies in my lifetime. It's just been crazy how many hobbies, how many interests I've had in my life over the years. And I have to, and the problem is, leading to the same thing I was talking before, is I would have one hobby and it'd be great and I'd be enjoying it, and I think it's the greatest thing ever, and then eventually I get burned out, it loses its luster, and I move on to something else. So right now, my interest, my hobby that I have going on right now is D&D. For those of you who don't know, that's Dungeons and Dragons. As a kid, I always thought it was cool sounding. I never tried it. I think when I was a kid in the 80s, it kind of had a stigma about it. It was some sort of evil thing that you shouldn't do. But there some people at work like, hey, I've never played. I'd like to play. One person was like, yeah, I've played a little bit, but it was just the most horrible experience I ever had. I'd like to try it again with a better experience. So all of us who were involved, like, none of us had ever played much. And the one person who we didn't end up finding one person before the group started that has played it in the past, but there was no one. For those of you who don't know, Dungeons & Dragons, you have somebody who's called the Dungeon Master, who basically tells the story of the game, and then the players, play it out. They have choice; they can make choices within the game and do what things they want, and then the Dungeon Master basically moves the story along. keeps things within the realm of the story. Just like a video game. Just like any sort of RPG video game, same sort of thing. The game tells a story. The characters usually get to go and do what they want, but there's things within the game that entices the players to do one thing or another. So it's the same thing. It's just not on a video game. You sit down on a table, you sit around a table, and you play the game. So I was like, okay, well, none of us have ever been a dungeon master. We don't know of anybody in our area, or at least that we know or are comfortable with, to be a dungeon master. So I decided I'll do it. I never played. But I'm like, we live in a world that you can find anything on YouTube, find anything on the internet. So why not? So I spent a couple months just perusing through YouTube and different resources online, bought a couple of books, and decided, okay, I'll try it. So I decided I would put a campaign together. I probably should have just taken some already pre-existing campaign and played it, but I decided the creative person in me decided, hey, I can do this. I want to make my own campaign. So I did. And a lot of my free time, my me time, has been spent working on that, which I've enjoyed immensely. And the nice thing about it is, well, first of all, my wife plays, so she's one of the players. So every other Saturday, her and I get together with a few friends, and we play Dungeons & Dragons. So unlike the previous hobbies that I've had, they've all been completely me. My video games, it was just me. Card collecting, comic books, all those various things that I've done in the past has all just been me. The nice thing about this is it's not just me. My wife's involved, and who knows, maybe one day when my son's old enough, he'll play too. But I'm actually getting together with friends, and the Bible tells us that we need to reach out and be friendly, make friends with people, not just people within our little circle. So two of the people in our group, granted, I know them from work, I guess you'd say. They weren't necessarily our friends before this, so it's been nice. We've made some new friends out of it. But yeah, the nice thing about this particular hobby is I can do it after my son goes to bed. I can mess around with the preparation of it, while my wife and I are watching something on TV in the evening. And then soon, good or bad, when my shift changes at the beginning of April, once I get home, my wife's probably already going to be in bed. So, and not that I'm going to stay up very late because my son will have me up at 6 a.m. anyway, but there's some time there. Like I said, it's one of those things that I can do and it not get in the way of my family. And it's been really nice. And we've made some new friends out of it. So I'm excited. So yeah, to kind of wrap things up, yes, your family, your son, in my case, my son, your children should come before yourself, in my opinion. Or at least that's the priority I've made. Do I always do well at it? No. Do I strive to make it that way? Yes. Do I need to completely remove me out of the equation? No. Even if this wasn't a hobby that I could share with anybody else, you have to make some time for yourself, and it just can't become in place of those other things. So make sure you find time for yourself, but don't do it in a way that alienates your family. I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to sit here and say that that I know all the answers to being a good father, because I don't see myself being one. I don't know yet. My son's 3.5, so what can I say? All I can do at this point is do my best to try, and when I fail, get back up and try a bit harder the next time. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I grew up in a good family, mother and father that loved me. So I try to take the good things that I learned from them and apply them to my life and raising my son. But from there, I mean, it's just a matter of doing the best you can and learning from your mistakes. Looks like we got a train stopped on the tracks up here, which may be a bad thing. Of course, this is the reason I leave, an hour before before work. Of course, today I left a little later than I normally do, so anyway, I'm probably going to let you go. We're going to see what's going on here with this train and may have to take a detour. Either way, hope to talk to you guys tomorrow with something else to talk about. I hope this will help in some way. Either way, if you like what you heard today, give me a like, subscribe, hit the notification to get more things in the future. Until next time, you take care.